Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. Boom! What's up, everybody? We're late.
We're a little bit
late, but
it's my fault.
It's okay. It's 100% Rob's fault, and maybe also the fault of my internet. But we're here. We're here, and we're happy to be here. And I'm super excited about tonight.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real.
Oh, I didn't even Damn, this is the second time we've done this. We've messed it up.
Second time.
What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brass Van Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm creeping it real.
That's better. I'm really excited about tonight. Sorry
I'm
if
pumped.
you can't tell.
Yeah, we've been out over our skis a little bit excited for this one. So
It's very true.
We didn't want to mess it up, but we ended up doing it anyway.
Messed it up.
So without
with
further
it,
ado, I'm super excited because we have got Mike Curtin from Scattershot Exotics. What is going on, man? How you doing?
Bam!
What's going on, guys? How are you? It's good to see you again.
It is
man.
awesome
It's great to see you,
It's
dude.
been a minute. I feel like since COVID and lack of expos and all that stuff, it's been a long time since I've seen you.
It's been brutal. You know, I've been trying to make it up to the New England show up in Manchester, and I haven't been able to get up there.
Honestly, I skipped the first one. That they were like, guess what? It's just open enough for COVID for us to have a reptile expo. And I was like, you dirty. No, I'm not doing that. I skipped the first one. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get COVID at a reptile expo. Not happening. And then the most recent one, I was like, you know what? I'll be safe. We'll bring Lysol. I'm going to wear masks. Everything's cool. We'll be
We're
safe.
gonna do it.
We're
Yeah.
gonna do it. And so we did the last one. It went pretty well, and everything was spaced out fairly well. So
Good,
I'm
good.
looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
it.
I'm definitely looking forward to getting back out and seeing people again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been too long. Like seriously, it's been freaking way too long.
Yep.
So Mike, for people who might not have heard of you, if they're not like in the Morelia groups or you know,
Or they're not just into reptiles.
not into
'cause they should just
reptiles.
know this man.
Well, listen, the people on the interweb, sometimes they just bought their first pet bearded dragon and they haven't heard of Mike Curtin yet.
Well,
so for those people,
You're hearing right
they're
now.
gonna hear right now. But like, what got you started in reptiles? What kind of led you on your trajectory
Oh
to where
man,
you're at right now?
I've always been into reptiles. Always. You know, my dad taking me fishing as a kid. I'd be catching frogs and looking for snakes and doing all that stuff. You know, Rod, you know, sitting on a stump somewhere, and you know, I was flipping logs and you know, up to my ankles or my knees in mud, you know, just catching frogs all over the place. And my dad was great. He said, you know what, have fun. We're out here having fun. If you don't want to catch fish, that's all right. You know, it was more about the time than anything,
Yeah.
which was awesome. And now I love both, you know, so.
I was just gonna say you post a lot of fishing stuff. I like seeing that.
Oh yeah. I'm hardcore surf caster, you know, so I'm all over the place, all hours. But you know, from that to just books and reading about them, you know, like just about everybody that grew up in the 80s and the 90s. My parents had a big box of National Geographic magazines down in the basement. I'd be flipping through them, you know, and you know, I tell the same story to a lot of my piercing clients because that actually kind of sparked my interest in body mods and piercing and tattoos, scarification, because of all the, you know, the culture of all those native tribes. So you'd be looking at all these crazy reptiles and animals from around the world and all these really, really interesting cultures. And I was really drawn to it. I guess I was probably about fourth grade when I got my first snake. And this kid that I was in school with, he had a garter snake that he couldn't keep anymore. So he asked me if I wanted it. It was $10. I said, all right, yeah. I ran home, asked my mom and dad. They're like, yeah, all right, yeah, sure.
Why not?
And what was crazy is after that, I mean, it was full steam ahead.
Oh yeah.
My parents, they'd go on vacation to see their friends down in Florida, and they'd sneak Green and Knowles on the airplane back for me from Florida.
Oh my god,
that's awesome.
It was great. It was great. They'd come home from Florida. It's like, Dad's like, got a surprise for you. Is it alive?
oh my god, that's great.
But it's always been an interest of mine. I always loved reptiles. It's been been a long time keeping them. But yeah, I got away from them for a little while, and I guess back in it was 2003, 2004. This garter snake just comes slithering around, in front of the shop that I was working at, and I pick him up, and it was probably November. It was like a warm November, and maybe October into November. So I'd pick him up, bring him home, and bring him home to my wife. I said, "Hey, look what I found." And
we got a new pet. She's like,
yeah. So we kept him to the spring. We kept him to the spring. And then let him go. And I said, "Hon," I said, "You know what? I want to get back into snake." And I told her that, hey, I used to keep snakes. Used to keep all kinds of reptiles. I said, I'd like to get snakes. She's like, okay, can I have spiders?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes.
So she's got a few Brazilian blacks. She loves her tarantulas, and I got the snakes, and we've had everything in between.
I love that.
So what was it like when you saw your first carpet python? Was that a special moment? Because I feel like
so the first carpet python I ever saw, it was so cool because it was a Diamond X carpet python, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm in this pet store it was on Route 22 in, I don't know, it was like Greenbrook, North Plainfield area, and anybody who's familiar with Jersey. And I don't even remember the name of the pet shop. And I went in there, and I'm looking at these things, and they got this beautiful naturalistic setup, and beautiful water feature, the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, what's the deal? And it was like $250. So, and I was young, so for me that was a lot of money. I said, so tell me about that Diamond X carpet python. No, you don't want that. You don't want that. They're mean. They're aggressive. Like everything you hear, you don't want this. They're terrible pets.
Mm-hmm.
So all right. So I went and I got a retic.
What? Oh my god!
I
was drinking just then. What?
Mike, I know. April Fool's was a few days ago, man. You can't just be.
True story. I couldn't stop thinking about this carpet python, right? And not too far later, my brother says, "Hey, listen, my roommate's coworker just hatched a clutch of pythons, and didn't tell me like what they were." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Like what kind? What are they?" "Oh, they're reticulated pythons." Now, reticulated pythons, like for me, everybody, kid growing up, you hear about reticulated pythons back in the day, and you read about in the books, oh, they lay 100 eggs.
Yeah.
They get 30 feet long. I'm like, wow, that's awesome, right? So I'm like, really?
Oh, boy.
So I met up with this guy, and I was 16 at the time, I think. Went to his house, and he had the mom of that clutch was a wild caught Sulawesi female.
Wow.
She was over 20 foot. According to them, she was 24 feet. Which is it's unheard of.
Yeah.
Her first clutch of eggs, 96 eggs.
Wow.
96 eggs was her first clutch of eggs. This was back in, what is this, 94, I think.
Wow.
Damn.
And they were all small, and the babies were small, but they got big. They got big.
Yeah.
My male, when I gave my male away, he was 16 plus.
Wow.
16 plus foot, heavy bodied. But yeah, so that's what I got instead of a carpet python, because they're mean.
A Sulawesi retic. Jeez.
The fascination never left me. So when everything came full circle, and I went into a pet store. I just picked up a Reptiles magazine. It was the issue with Will Leary. And I saw that Diamond X, but no, I saw that Diamond Jungle on that centerfold, and I'm like, man, I think I need to get carpet pythons. Like, I fell in love all over again. Within, I don't know, 6 months to a year, I was at a White Plains Expo. I bought my first jungle, who's actually up in the cage behind me. And that was Delia. Delia is actually in a prelay shed right now.
That's awesome.
So she's close to. I think she's about a year and a half or so when I bought her, and that was back in 2003, 2004, I think it was.
That's crazy.
And and then it was, with her, it was like one after the other. I couldn't stop. And then just a fascination. I had a fascination with Australia. Remembering when Crocodile Dundee came out, and and I'm dating myself right now, but there's something so raw and primitive and wild about Australia. That next thing you know, I'm getting Woma pythons, and then I'm getting blackheads, and it's just, it just kept on going, and I just never looked back.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
That's crazy, because I got my first pet snake right around 2003 too. It was just like a normal ball python, but I still have him too. He lives with my mom now, but I still have him. And he's 19 years old. I had him. I can't believe it's been 18 years. Are you kidding me right now?
It's okay, Rob.
It's wild. It's wild to think about. And then I got my first short tail probably 14 years ago. That's crazy to me. And I still have him too.
That snake's as old as some of my students.
Some of the kids who come to the shop, man. It's so
oh man.
So the carpets definitely drew you, but you got a big draw for Australia. And then more recently, you've been getting into the big colubrids. And I just want to go out on record and say I'm here for it 100%.
Yes.
Dude, I don't anybody listening, when you hear don't get Cribos because they're messy and they smell bad and they're dirty and they're a nightmare to clean and blah blah blah, don't listen. So yes, they'll paint the walls occasionally, but it is well worth it. I just put a video up of my middle son, my 10-year-old, with Frenchie, our long-term term captive yellowtail.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, she's probably a good 7-8 foot, and she's got an attitude. I mean, you take her outside and put her in the sun, that's a wild snake. And this was the first time this year that we had her out. So Chase was a little standoffish, a little hesitant, but early last fall, I had her out, and I just especially with the Caribos, I like taking them out for some exercise. Let them cruise, let them stretch, let them do their thing, because they're such fast, active snakes. I think it's really important to let them be them. So I had her out in the yard, and here comes Chase with his friends, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, is that Frenchie?" I'm like, "Yeah, can I pick her up?" I'm like, "Yeah, but she'll probably get you."
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right." So I mean, it was straight up like watching Crocodile Hunter. It was like watching Steve Irwin. He picked her up, probably about the midpoint of her body, real gently, and she starts coming across her body with her mouth wide open. He sets her down, takes 2 steps back, circles around, picks her up again, and he worked her so beautifully. Now I teach my boys proper handling, how to read snakes, how to know what they're thinking. Like hey, like for us, when we look at an animal, when we look at a snake especially, we can tell, okay, so that snake's looking for food right now, or that snake probably not having a real good day. Probably doesn't want to be messed with. So we can read them like that. So I try and teach him that as best I can. But he got that snake from open mouth, lunging at him, to where he was handling her and letting his friends come over and pet her within about 15 minutes.
That's got to be so humbling. Like to watch your kid do that, man. I would be so geeked.
The natural instinct and ability he showed was, it was. I mean, I was in awe. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
But yeah, I'm really so I started with carpet pythons from like a breeding standpoint. Well, getting back into snakes after, so I took an alcoholic holiday for several years where I didn't keep anything, and I quit drinking and started a family, and next thing you know, like it's like, all right, so now I get back into snakes. And my wife and I, start talking about the idea of breeding. It's like, I'd like to breed these. She's like, well, if you want to do it, go ahead. Like, and so we started doing that. And over the past several years, there's a lot of species that I've been really interested in, but at the same time intimidated by. And Cribos among them, rhino rats, because I had heard about them, but when I was first hearing about them, they weren't easy to keep. There were a lot of problems with them because they were just being kept incorrectly. And then I mean, Owen and Eric has talked about it a bunch of times when Owen got his rhinos, and I'm like, put my glasses on and staring at him like, oh,
that's so cool. Yeah.
But yeah, once you, and that's one of the things that a lot of new keepers now would be very well to kind of ponder on, because it's not that, hey, I got rhinos and figured them out and like now I'm keeping them great. It's like, no, like there's guys out there like Rob Stone in particular, that they put into work, you know.
Yeah.
They put in the work and figured out how to do it, figured out what everybody was doing wrong, figured out why everybody was killing these things. And now I get to enjoy, like, hey, okay, so now I got like a group of beautiful rhino rat snakes, and I know how to keep them because someone else did the work for me.
Yeah.
You know, womas, back when I started breeding womas, you know, not a lot of people were being really successful breeding them. You know, and to like my first clutch of Woma eggs was like 14 eggs. And
Wow.
I just, you know how many hatched? One.
One. I was gonna say like one or two. That's the
One.
plight of people who breed womas. The
Yeah.
first clutch is like, no matter how good you think you are, it's one or two babies that come out of it.
Yep.
And it's like you just watch them die. You just watch the eggs. You watch them get that wet, dark look about them. Oh, and there's the green ring. It's like, oh, there it comes. All right, that one's dead. But I had 2 clutches that year. The second clutch, I hatched 9. So
Wow.
it's just the listening to the people that have put in the time and the work and the effort and lost a bunch of animals, figuring them out, and being humble enough to say, all right, I need to change some things, you know. Some people, they get a little too set in their ways where, you know, oh, well, you know what, this is how it's supposed to be done. I don't know what's wrong. Well, you got to listen to your
You're
animal.
not doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's something that in the blood and short-tail community has been just starting to catch up right now with a lot of the misinformation from the 90s and early 2000s, because you know, back in the day, people would be like, blood pythons are all evil and you got to keep them at 95 degrees and they live in a swamp. So keep them at 100% humidity. If it's not dripping wet inside the enclosure, they're not happy. And they would have these like miserable snakes that would just like bite them and pee on them. And they were unhappy.
That was me.
They were unhappy. They had no idea. And then now, you know, coming to bloods and short tails, learning from all those people who made all those mistakes back then and just didn't keep them properly and couldn't get them to breed and all that sort of stuff. And then seeing how they experimented and changed. You know, nowadays, most people keep their bloods and short tails at like 82 degrees. And they keep them like a good sized water dish, plenty of humidity. You're cool. As long as they can drink and stay hydrated, then don't go crazy. And being able to reproduce them is become significantly easier now than it was, you know, 15 years ago.
Right. Yeah,
and I'm grateful for all those people who shared that information with me, because man, I'm so glad that I'm coming for a point now where I can breed stuff and I can make some pretty cool animals, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy because back in the day, like a lot of people were, you know, pretty hesitant about sharing information.
Oh yeah.
And you know, they didn't want the recipe going out, you know. And I think what I learned back then still holds true today, which is and well, let's be real, like back then, you know, texting was called writing a letter.
Yeah.
So,
sharing that information was effort.
It's not like I could shoot a text, hey, how do you keep and breed this species, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you needed, I mean, yeah, we did have like the forums, late 90s, early 2000s. We did have the forums going on, which was cool. Actually, yeah, it was the 2000s,
2000s,
that I started going on, stuff like that, where you started getting some information, right? But you know, the real information, like the meat, that's what you got spending time with people and actually building relationships, you know. And I mean, that's really what's driving me like now, is the relationships. Speaking of fishing, like at least once a year, I try to have a herp fishing trip. So we go out on my buddy's. My buddy owns a fishing charter out of Point Pleasant Beach, and a bunch of us get together and we hang out and we catch fish and we talk snakes and talk reptiles and
That's
just
awesome.
have a great time and just connect and you'll learn more in those. And not saying that's the only reason for the relationship, but
right,
you'll learn more from people in relationship than you ever will asking questions on a forum.
Yeah.
Or a Facebook group.
100%.
That's one of the main reasons why I really love the podcast format and valuable resources like NPR, because it's like getting to sit in on one of those conversations. That's why me and Jeremy started Reptile, or like redid Reptile Talk, was to have these conversations where we might not always be talking about, oh, this is how you keep this and this is how you breed this,
right.
But the little information that you pick up when you're having a conversation with people who are into reptiles, you can pick up so many useful things. And the fact that it's documented, or at least part of it can be documented now and shared on a format that's accessible to a lot of people is really awesome to me. I think that's like so incredible.
Yeah. It's, you guys, I'm sure you guys have both made fun of me for my flip phone. Right?
No, I have not. Because I was a late adapter.
At least not on the podcast. That's
not publicly. Not publicly.
Okay, not publicly, but you know the deal. Because we've hung out at White Plains and you've seen me break out the flip phone and you went, like for real?
Yes.
So like, I finally, I wasn't even able, just a basic text message, just can't even get him anymore. So I finally, like this Christmas, I'm like, all right, I'll
do the thing.
Take the plunge.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I'm listening to, so I was listening to NPR right along, I bring it up on my laptop and listen that way. But now it's so much more accessible where, I'm listening to it in the car, back and forth from work. And it's great because you just learn so much.
Yes.
And especially like the natural history stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Which, people, we missed that, right? We kind of shoot right past what are they doing in the wild. All right. And go right to, okay, how do we keep and breed these? Okay. And, talking to, I started talking to Derek Roddy, years, probably back 2007, 2008. And, just through having just long conversations, and developing a friendship, he got me rethinking heating my animals, right? So my heat, drops down. I do a night drop year round. Okay. So what is it at? They're at 76 right now. Okay. So that's the hot spot, is at 76 at nighttime, because in the wild, they're not having access to basking 24 hours a day. So even during my summertime, they're going to still get that night drop. It's not going to drop as low. You're still going to have a warmer ambient heat, ambient temperature in the room, but it's still they're going to get a drop. They're not going to be able to bask 24/7. And it's little things like that. And then you notice your animals and you notice what they're doing. And their behavior is changing. And now it's like you can sit in your room and you can pattern an animal and you can just like, what? Okay. And you kind of I know that at 8 o'clock in the morning, when I come in my snake room, every one of my carpets is going to be basking. Every one of them. They're going to be coming out, and they're going to be getting that morning heat. And they're behaving the way snakes behave. My rhinos, they've got no heat except for they get basking for 2 hours a day. In early afternoon, they get 2 hours for basking, and they'll bask, and they're super active, and they're great. That's where learning the natural history of the animal has really helped a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that information wasn't available as readily as it is today. Which is why podcasts like this and like NPR are so great. They're just invaluable.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I what's interesting is I was just doing another podcast earlier in the week, and we were talking about like building the relationships and networking with people to get information like this. And I'm like, man, it is so much easier to do now than it was years ago. But it seems like now that information is right here, we're like, nah, that's fine. I'll just go around it. And then, and it's not until you're sitting there scratching your head because you can't figure something else out that you come back, and then you're like, oh man, if I had just taken an hour of my time, to check out this podcast or reach out to so-and-so through a freaking Facebook message and not through, writing a letter of please just respond to me with a little information, I would have, not had 6 months of headaches,
Sure.
So, yeah. But yeah, establishing these relationships, it's like, that's key, man.
So critical.
Yeah. One of the things that Scott Borden's been talking about, like Scott and I are on the same page with a lot of stuff. And one of the things that we've been talking about is pet keepers and not necessarily breeders. And we've had a couple conversations like that. And I just started a reptile group here in Ocean County. And so the hope is that it grows and eventually can become a statewide thing. And there's another fellow in the state that is trying to do a herpetological society and trying to get all the paperwork and everything going for that. So the hope is to have a good, strong, robust herpetological society in the state. But I got a message, in the Ocean County group where it's like, hey, listen, I want to just do an end of summer barbecue, get together, get to know each other in person.
Yes.
And right along the lines of Carpet Fest. Carpet Fest is one of the best things to ever come out of the Morelia community because of the fact that so many people from so many walks of life that can just go and hang out. And you've been to Carpet Fest, and Rob, you've been to Carpet Fest?
I went to Southeast Carpet Fest last year, right before COVID hit, and then that's the only one I've been to. I didn't get a chance to go to the OG one. I work too much. I work way too much. That's basically my work schedule has been too crazy.
Dude, Scally will stash you in a cooler with the lobster and smuggle you down the next.
You know what? I talked to Scally, but the last 2 years that it happened, I talked to him like 2 days before, and the last time that it happened, I was like, I'm definitely going. And then that next day, work was like, yeah, we need you here, so you cannot go. And I was like,
because then I had to spend the entire day answering the "What happened to Rob?" question.
Where did Rob go? Yeah,
I did not ask you that question.
You did not. I appreciate that very much, sir.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one woman in the group, she said, hey, listen, like I'm really interested in reptiles. I really don't have a lot of knowledge. Like would this event be open to people like me? And I'm like, this is for people like
This is
me.
for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is especially for you. Like, and that's how these relationships happen, which is for me, that's one of my favorite parts of keeping. Like the hardest thing about COVID for me is I got friends like all over the country that
Haven't
I
been able
only
to see.
see every few months.
Yeah.
And missing out on seeing all you guys. Like, dude, it
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That has been
100%.
very rough for me because as someone who's like very extroverted and likes to go and do things and see people, oof.
I miss bacon cupcakes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
miss them. I want a bacon cupcake.
So here's the deal. I have shipped people bacon cupcakes before.
Oh yeah.
He's like, before you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Oh man.
Let me get something together because I have a couple people in Florida who I need to send them
a few
to.
orders.
I
have
do.
come in.
There's a couple people who like have seen my cupcakes and have been friends with me for like 10 years and they haven't
never had a
because
cupcake.
when I did the Florida expos, I didn't have a kitchen to make one.
Yeah.
So they've been like, you should just send me some. And I'm like, shipping cupcakes sucks. But
Yeah.
you know what?
It might have to happen.
I might have to do a little COVID
COVID care package.
package.
The COVID cupcake care package.
I can't say that 3 times fast.
Me either. But
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I'm here
it's
for
so
it.
weird because like think about that, right? That's something that's like not really reptile related, but it's kind of reptile related because it would just be at the expos. You'd hit that like 1 or 2 o'clock time slot where you're like, oh my god, I got a little sometime. I'm a little hungry. And all of a sudden you
Rob,
see
Here comes
container.
Rob with a tray of cupcakes. And everybody at the table's like, this guy just delivers like cupcakes. Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
And he's
Guess
gonna
what?
be your new best friend now.
I get some, you get none. I'm just kidding. His
Oh
kids
my
always got
God.
some if they wanted them.
That's it. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
This is amazing. Okay, we're gonna take a quick 90-second break for an ad break because we have a sponsor.
Hey.
And that's pretty awesome.
pretty
So
cool.
you guys get to check out this wonderful video real quick, and we'll be right back. We are super happy to announce our partnership with Oasis Exotic Enclosures, a new startup cage manufacturer based in California. Matt and Steph Conard have taken their time developing a wonderful quality product. The VS31 enclosure is their flagship model. It's 31 inches by 20 inches by 20 inches. It's perfect for many smaller species of colubrid, boa, python, or even some nocturnal lizards. Made with industrial-grade polyethylene plastic via in-house rotational molding, these cages have the strongest bonds in plastic manufacturing. Each enclosure has molded-in inverted handles on the sides, making moving from one place to another easier than ever. Each cage also has bolt-threaded inserts to allow you to connect cages vertically or secure them to a wall, creating impregnable security for that ever-growing collection. Also, a wonderful addition, the option to receive wall mounting brackets for your enclosure. That's right, you can attach this cage to any wall in your house at any height you desire. This wonderful patent-pending adaptation provides you the ability to take that cage you have just placed on a table or on the floor up higher without wasting valuable floor space. This also allows you to no longer loom above your pet before entering the enclosure, which is often a high cause of stress. Matt and Steph have just begun their journey into cage manufacturing and have worked to put out a quality product at a comparable price to other companies in the industry. More innovations and designs are forthcoming, and we are excited to see Oasis Exotic Enclosures grow and develop. Please go check them out on Instagram at Oasis Exotic Enclosures and on the web at www.oasiscages.com. Boom, you can go check that out. All the links will be available here on the YouTube video description, and if you're just checking out the audio, you can check out all of that stuff there as well. It'll all be linked there too. So bam, back back to baking cupcakes.
He's like, don't let me think that you forgot about the cupcakes here.
Oh no,
There was a promise.
Oh
Made
man.
my loin quiver.
Okay, so jeez. Okay, are we going down that road?
No.
Talking again. Jeez. Okay, so we got to talk about this because it's a project that you have teased me about. That you teased me about for many years at White Plains, always bringing me to your table to stare at these wonderful carpet pythons that for
Not
the
my
longest
fault.
time I could never
Not
afford.
my fault.
And then finally was able to afford them, and now I have a few here or there, and that's the Ocelot jungle carpet python stuff. So there's not a lot of open information out there. I feel like anytime I post a picture of an Ocelot jungle jag, I get like 10 or 15 messages like, what the hell's the Ocelot gene? So
yeah, and then I'm tagged in it.
Yeah,
yep.
Generally that's how it goes. I feel like
which is fine, which is great.
Yeah, I feel like if you haven't already, you should have like something you can just quickly copy and paste for response
on the notes on your phone. You can have a little thing.
You know what? Flip phone until December, guys.
That's fair. So so I remember being at White Plains for many shows. And I'd be walking around, she's like, "Oh, Mike's here. I'm gonna say what's up to Mike." And before I can even get within 3 feet of Mike's table, I just see like shining, gleaming yellow carpet pythons, and I'm like,
glowing.
What the is that?
Worms.
And then Mike's like, "You want that?" And I'm like, "I do want that." But then Mike also says it's not for sale, and I'm like, "Yeah."
You got to keep the best for yourself, man.
It's true. So
thank you for not asking me how much for the NFS.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I usually am pretty good at understanding acronyms. So so can you just kind of I know that it's kind of like a long explanation of the history of the gene, but can you just kind of give like a short synopsis of the Ocelot jungle gene?
Okay, so 2008. Well, prior to that, jags were still pretty high dollar, and they were fascinating. That same Will Leary article in Reptiles. I remember seeing Benjamin, and it's like, man, them things are awesome, right? Yeah. So, and then I'm talking at White Plains to Jay McClear, and he was, I think he was the first one to do to breed jungles into it in the U.S. And so he had these jungle jags, and it's like, okay, it's gonna be a jag one. It's gonna be like bright yellow, and they were okay. They were 50% jungle jags, so had to have one, and I got one. And bred him to my girl Delia, and super excited. Out of that, one of the first eggs that I opened up, so they started pipping. So I'm kind of peeling them back, opening them, seeing what's inside. And I post a picture on Morelia, MoreliaPythons.com. So I post a picture, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "What is that?" I knew there was something with that one baby. So that baby was Jigsaw. As the conversation progressed, Nick Mutton jumps in. I think Paul had jumped in as well, because Nick had said, "Listen, that looks like what Paul had produced over in Europe. That looks like an Ocelot." So he had produced one the year prior, I believe. And so the more we're looking at it, it's like, yeah, that looks like it's probably the same thing. So I raised him up. I bred him to his paternal aunt, and wound up with a number of Ocelots. I remember coming home, it was like two 3 o'clock in the morning coming home from fishing, and I went checked the eggs, and they had pipped, and I was like, I looked, and sure enough, and that was Link, and
Oh, okay.
I was literally jumping up and down in the snake room, and my wife she's looking at me laughing.
You're like, you don't understand. You don't understand.
Yeah.
She's like, and I mean, she knew the significance. She was excited for me.
Yeah.
So I continued to work with that, with other jags, and just focusing on that mutation within the jag gene. The more I spoke to Nick Mutton, he's like, listen, he says, Paul's jungle that he used in that pairing, that was a high percentage jungle jag. That was Ocelot. It was 75%, just like Jigsaw. He says that was done with U.S. jungle blood, right? So I said, huh, okay. So he says, I'm wondering if that's not a mutation in the jungle that people just don't realize because it's so subtle. It's just, and when you deal with carpet, and one of the things that drew me to carpet pythons is there's so many little variations and little anomalies from one to the next to the next.
Yeah.
You can have two coastals and look at them, more so than jungles, but really with coastals, and it's like, holy cow, like they look like two completely different snakes. You wouldn't even think they're the same species. That's one of the things that fascinated me so much about them. So when he started talking about that, it's like, you know what, the wheels started kind of turning, and I started thinking, okay, so what if I can kind of isolate that from the jag? Because I am noticing that in the normal non-jag siblings, I'm seeing little anomalies in the pattern, that little flecking, that peppering where it looks kind of pixelated, right along their sides, usually up by the neck, and I'm noticing that. I was like, what if I could just do that? So I took Jigsaw and I think it was Pepper, which were two very high expression Ocelot jags. And I know everyone says don't do jag to jag, don't do jag to jag. I've got no problem doing jag to jag. We can dig into that too later if you want. But the normal offspring from that pairing, I was like, boom, that's it.
That's
like,
it. Yeah.
The normal pairing they were high expression, non-jag ocelots. And Jeremy, that's that female I sent you a picture of.
Oh, yeah.
So I wound up getting to where I was able to isolate that trait away from the jag gene. So the way it works, it does seem to be a polygenic trait that is through line breeding. It is being passed on that way. I have seen. I did a normal caramel to a high expression ocelot jag, and wound up with a smoking caramel ocelot jag.
I remember that.
Holy cow! Absolutely. And so we're getting ready to go to our Sunday church gathering, and this thing is, I'm super excited. Probably 3/4 of the clutch had already pipped, and I'm looking in, and I could see the pattern, I could see the color, and she's all wrapped up and upside down, umbilicus wrapped around her. I'm like, I opened that up the rest of the way. I pulled her out, kind of got everything unwrapped, and I just left her in the egg, and I prayed. And she survived. She made it, and she wound up. She was the first one to feed, and she wound up being super healthy. I wish I had a happy ending, but Nido got her, which was devastating. Absolutely, it crushed me. But with that animal, Nick's comment was, well, that turned out better than I had thought, because I've got a caramel from Europe, right? And completely, pure coastal, completely unrelated to anything in the States. And I breed her to Jigsaw, and I wind up with this super high expression Ocelot. So there are anomalies like that where they'll pass them on first generation. Like, it's like, holy cow. Most of them, you'll see those subtle anomalies. All right. You'll see the little, the ocelli. All right. Where you've got the circles where the interior color is the same as the ground color of the rest of the snake, as opposed to most jags where the interior color is darker. Okay.
Right.
So you'll see those, with my line in particular, you see a lot of that pixelated peppering look. Usually the first third to half of the body is where it's most heavily anomalous right there. But those are the two main traits that you see with my line of ocelots. But since then, most of the ocelot pairings that I'm doing have been in the past to get that more extreme non-jag ocelot, and see how far I can kind of go with that. This season, I've kind of gone back a little bit to where, I'm going to put some real high yellow stuff back into them, which is great because I love neon yellow snakes, and you know that.
Yep.
Well, you did it. Like,
yep. Yeah, exactly.
So, and so for the past, with the ocelot stuff, for the past 10 years or so, I've just been trying to get the brightest, most extreme version of that mutation with the brightest yellow possible, and just continuing to refine it.
Yeah, dude. And man, if you've never seen an ocelot or an ocelot jag, you got to Google it, or you need to go check out Scattershot Exotics.
I mean, that would probably be the better place.
That's probably the better place to do it, because, man, oh man, when you see these,
there's something else. Like, going to the White Plains Expo and just seeing the tower.
Is he doing it?
The tower.
Look at it. Look at it.
Oh yeah. And the camera makes it less yellow than it actually is, because I know that thing glows. Oh, that's such a nice.
They're awesome. They're awesome. They blow my mind. I stare at them,
dude. When I'm going through cleaning stuff in my room and I get to one of the ocelots, I'm like, we're gonna spend some time right here.
I don't have a ton of carpet pythons, but I do have an ocelot jungle jag female, and she's pretty.
Everyone needs one.
I would venture and say yes.
Yeah.
I'm not usually someone who goes and slaps that sticker on a lot of things, but yes, I agree. Because you know what, the carpet pythons, they've got this like good size. When they get big, they're not usually too jerks. They're not usually that bad for handling. They perch. You can make a nice looking enclosure, and they'll utilize the nice enclosure. And they've got all these different little things that just make them great for everyone, whether you've got one snake or whether you've got 100 snakes. You need one. You need one.
Yeah. And I've had a number of people come up to me at White Plains and kind of come over to the table, look, walk around, come back, and then say, like, listen, I want the prettiest animal that I want to put it on display in a big cage.
Yeah.
And I think if you have the room to do a nice naturalistic enclosure, the amount of yellow that just pops.
Put some
Yes.
UV lights on
the
it.
Ocelots.
Yes.
I mean, they're really, really cool to look at.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things I really enjoy is, when somebody says, I want something beautiful that I can just look at every day.
Mhm.
And it's like, cool, and you want one of my animals, and that's like, that's humbling. That's
Yes.
great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Um,
I mostly keep Bloods and Short Tails, so you don't put those in a big ass display cage.
Get in your bin.
Yeah, go into your bin. I'll take you out. We'll hang out on the couch for a little bit. I'll put you back. Everything's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Sheesh.
but
Well,
a carpet python.
that's another thing that, a lot of people, sometimes we forget to enjoy the animal for what they are.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And, with the Bloods and Short Tails, they're impressive animals.
Mm-hmm.
If you want them to climb trees,
Oh.
and like, you're probably
You'd be
not
disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to be be excited about having them in a beautiful display enclosure.
Yeah.
And it's
And they're probably
it's
not gonna
all
be happy.
about what you're looking for and what the animal is.
Exactly.
And that's another thing that, as keepers, we are really, as keepers, we really need to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Where you do your research and you say, okay, this is what I'm looking to get out of an animal, and this is what I think I want to get.
Yeah, and you kind of got to work within the parameters of what you are trying to do, because I get a lot of people in like the Blood and Short Tail groups, and they're like, I want to make a 8-foot long bioactive live planted vivarium, and I want to put a blood python in there, and I'm like, well, it's going to dig up all your plants, it's going to pee and turn all your soil very acidic, it's going to ruin your plant system, and it's probably not going to be super happy in there. There's lots of other animals that would do great in that, but Bloods and Short Tails really aren't the one to do it. And they're like, I've got this idea of what I want the snake to be, and it's like, that's not what the snake is, though. You're not working within the reality of what is going on outside of you. Like, I get that you have good intentions, but you have to understand what the snake wants, because at the end of the day, it's not about what you want. I mean, yes, you want to have a nice planted enclosure, but maybe you want a different species. Put a corn snake in there. You want to see something that's going to use your whole enclosure and not ruin your plants and stuff? Put a corn snake in there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to appreciate it a lot.
And I think that's one of the things that, and I, excuse me,
Doing the teacher thing?
Doing the teacher thing. Class, I'd like you to pay attention now. No, I don't necessarily know 100% like in other countries, but I know in the US, like, we're very good at having these preconceived notions of like, this is what I expect it to be, this is what I want it to be, and if it's not that, I'm throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Right,
so many other countries, like I always think, like, musically,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can go do a corporate gig, like a wedding gig or anything like that, and if I play original music, I can guarantee you I'm going to get a volume complaint.
Yeah.
But if I don't touch my volume knobs and play a Michael Jackson cover, everybody's dancing, having a grand old time,
cool,
and whatever, because they're just like, live music, you're here to entertain me. It doesn't matter that you are your own person or that you don't enjoy this kind of music. Like, you're here to entertain me, and if you don't do that, I'm going to be upset.
Right.
And like that drives me Drives me nuts. Don't hire me for your damn corporate gig if you're just gonna want Michael Jackson covers, you piece of crap. Shout out to Michael though.
Oh no.
And that we see that in the whole morph mindset too,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So with this Ocelot, all right, when I hatched Jigsaw, I was super stoked. I'm like, holy cow. And somebody offered me Randy Mackey, who some of the old school guys are gonna know. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's real super old school guy. Used to be at Hamburg all the time. 6 foot forever, wearing a cowboy hat, and so he lived 20 minutes from my work, and we started talking. We got kind of friendly, and he's like, "How much you want for that?" And I said, "No, I don't want to sell them. I'll give you $5,000." And like, I was relatively new to breeding,
Mhm.
and I said, "No, I don't. I'm not going to sell them. I'm not going to sell them." But so many people, they see that, they get that something new, something a little bit different. Now, I could have bred him and gotten nothing at all,
Yeah.
but you know what? I would still enjoy him, and I would still absolutely love the animal, because he was this bright yellow carpet python with this crazy pattern, right? And sometimes we get Keith McPeak, was his OG quote of the day today was, sometimes we fail to see the animal through the morph.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember seeing that. Yeah, seeing that post. Yeah.
And that's what, the morphs are great. I love them. I'm not a morph guy, but some of them are really, really pretty. And you can appreciate that within the animal. But it is about appreciating the animal for what it is.
Yes.
And if it can pass on those genetics, great. If it can't, well, that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that one of the things, like, I do a lot of bloods and short tails, and I like them for the morphs and stuff. But I also do scrub pythons, and those, there's no morphs. I just like the way that they are. Like, I love everything about them, and finding an appreciation for those has definitely brought a different perspective for me than I do for the bloods and the short tails. Like, I still love bloods and short tails for their personalities and for the snakes themselves, because I was into bloods and short tails before there was really, I mean, not before there was morphs, but before there was as many morphs as there are right now. And growing up, I was super just like in awe of them, just their body structure and their heads. And I was just so into it. Coming from that to, the scrubs, where it's like, even if I wanted there to be a morph, there's no morph. So it's just, I just appreciate them for what they are. And the same thing with the carpet you're talking about. I've had so many people come up to me about my scrub Janet, one of my captive bred barneck scrubs. And they're like, "This animal's amazing. I'll give you $2,000 for it." I was like, "Nope. I'll give you how about $3,000? No, I will not." And it's not because she has any morph or anything. I just love the animal. It's not going anywhere. Like, and then they're like, "Okay, well, when you produce a baby, I'm buying one." And I was like, "That first clutch is mine, damn it. You can't have any." And maybe if I make more, then maybe I'll let some go.
So years ago, doing a White Plains show, and this is when albinos were probably still around $7-8 grand.
The albino carpets?
Albino carpets, yeah. Pure Darwin. And I've got John Drogna and Greg Madden right next to me, and they've got some albino Darwins on the table. And I've got my tower, and top spot is Scattershot. And this dude runs past their albinos and says, "What is that? What is that?" I want one of those. And I'm like, it's just a normal jungle. You know, it's a normal jungle carpet. But
that's when you look over at those guys and just like, hey.
it was, and and I'm good friends with both of them, and so they look at me like, they're like, wow, like we should have just gotten some of those,
Right?
Oh man.
But yeah, and in the same way, people ask a lot of times my just normal jungles. Hey, well, what morph is that? Because they've got the morph on the brain. It's like that's a wild type.
Yep.
There's no genetic mutation. It's selectively bred to look like that. So I just tried to selectively breed it to be the prettiest jungle possible.
Yeah.
And I've recently I've gotten back to, so I was doing a lot of, I was doing the caramels, I was doing, some coastal stuff, dabbled in IJs a little bit. I had albinos. But now, like my whole room, I've got one animal that's not yellow. Like that's not black and yellow. That's a carpet python. And just about everything else, I've gone, just because that was, when it comes to carpets, for me, that was it. That was like, that's what drew me to them initially. And that's what I can still, Jeremy, like you said, I can come in here and I can just look at black and yellow snakes all day.
Yep.
And never get tired of it.
Yes.
You just don't get tired of it.
So what is that one snake that is not the black and yellow carpet?
That's a caramel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe it's an Asian thing. Maybe it's maybe it's the no yellow.
So I was so heartbroken. So my youngest son Max, his given name at birth was Zayden. So my two youngest kids are adopted, and so we named her, like, so Max and Chase, both of them. Hey, Daddy, can this be my snake? Every snake that comes in the house. So that caramel ocelot was Max's. And because he's like, Daddy, can she be mine? And I said, yes, she can be mine. That way I will never sell her, ever.
Yes. And you can have sorry, that's the kids. I can't get daddy things. Yep, I can't do it.
So I was pretty heartbroken when I lost her.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago I picked up a caramel male from Andy Simmons, and really pretty caramel, but because I still want to produce another one. I bred him to a female this year. She has not been a very good breeder for me, and I don't think she's going to really get the job done this year. So that's, and she was more of an experiment. She and Delia. Now we've spoken a little bit about nutrition, and Jeremy, you and I were texting the other day, and we're talking about nutrition with your animals. So one of the things that Cribos in particular have really opened my eyes to is varied diets, right?
Yeah.
So with Delia, I got her, and it was right away, get her on rats, and she's eaten large and extra large rats for a good portion of her life. And the past 2 years that I bred her, the last time I successfully bred her was 2014. And the two subsequent pairings, she did, I think I bred her twice after that. I gave her some time off. Then I had to deal with the whole Nido thing, so I wasn't breeding anything.
Mhm.
But she slugged out on me, and I'm like, this is weird. So the clutch beforehand was 31 fertile eggs, and we went from that to 2 clutches of slugs in a row with years separating them with time off.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, what's going on? All right,
Yeah.
now I'm into Crebos, and Crebos they need that varied diet. Okay.
Yeah.
So you look at my freezer. I have a friend of mine just sent me a picture of Ziploc bags full of creek chub because it's trout season and creek chub are his like it. So my Crebos, they get whole creek chub, whole frozen thawed creek chub, whole frozen thawed brook trout. Get chicks, they get quail, they get mice. Mice make up probably 15% of their diet. Neither one of them get fed rats. I'm sure they would take them, but I have so many other prey items. So a couple years ago, I'm like, you know what? What if I started doing that with the carpets? And we'll see what happens. So I started feeding, the 2 females that were giving me a hard time as far as producing fertile clutches, which is Delia and Cookie. I put them on a predominantly bird diet. So they're eating mostly chicks, quail. So I've got an 8-foot carpet python that I intentionally chose to feed mice to. Okay.
What?
And feed the jungle, right?
Oh boy. Ugh.
So like that's something where it's like, oh, don't feed them mice, don't feed them. So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna give her mice. So she eats mice. She eats predominantly quail, chicks,
Yeah.
small chickens, and then I think the biggest rat I fed her in 2 years was a medium rat she got, and but mice, small rats, and birds. That's what she eats. And what I've noticed is an increase in activity, a more enthusiastic feeding response, where when I'm defrosting food, she used to just hang out in the cage and wait for the rat to come to her. And okay, I'll eat this large rat. So now she smells food defrosting, she's perched, and she's in that classic carpet position, head down, waiting for prey.
That's cool.
And it's so I've definitely noticed a difference in behavior with them. And I've done that with my other carpets as well. But I no longer buy even my Argentine boas. I don't feed them anything bigger than a medium rat. I stick with smaller meals. So maybe I'll give them a few prey items.
Yeah.
Instead of giving them a large rat, I'll give them 2 mediums or 2 smalls. And so I feed my Argentine boas mice and chicks also. And
that's awesome.
They are real enthusiastic. They love them. And I'm interested to see this year what's going to happen with a change in prey and a more varied diet, and what that's going to do to reproduction.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be interesting to see for sure.
Really hopeful with that.
That'd be pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
You got to keep us posted.
Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely will.
Yeah. All right. So we're winding down our time. We've gone a little over our time, which is totally fine because we love you, dude. But so before we wrap this up, we ask all of our guests one final question.
An important question.
Very important question. And that is, how many Ocelot carpet pythons are you sending me this year?
Jeremy, that's not the question.
That's an important question I need to know.
Okay?
That's not the question.
That's right, because I'm getting many of them. No. No. So the question is, what in the realm of reptiles, be it something in your personal collection or something that you've seen scouring the interwebs on your, especially now recently,
On your new
not dumb phone. What in the realm of reptiles has you excited about reptiles?
Oh,
Gonna have you dig deep.
that's a hard question.
Hey, look, you can feel free to say sending Jeremy many Ocelot.
All right. So I'm gonna give two answers. I'm gonna give a bonus.
Okay.
All right. I would say probably number one would be the work that's being done with Bolenai right now. Where we've got keepers out there that are choosing to invest thousands and thousands of dollars in animals with no promise of any return. And they are doing the work. Guys like Keith and Ari, like doing the work to unlock these animals for herpetoculture. Doing the work to unlock these animals for the purpose of conservation, so that we don't, there isn't a market for captive hatched babies. That has me pretty excited. You can't talk to Keith about Bolenai and not get excited. You can't. you just can't. So that's number one. Number two, Jeremy, I am really excited about the female I'm going to send you.
Yes.
I'm excited about that. She is like, her body is like looking at me, just saying, "Why didn't you breed me this year?" And I chose to give her the year off, and her body was ready. So, but I look forward to. I'm excited to see what you do with her.
I'm very excited. I was just talking with Rob about it the other day, and I was like, that Ocelot zebra jag male should be ready in the fall. That could be an interesting one to do.
I think
she will be more than ready and willing.
I'm so here for it.
That's awesome.
Man,
Mike, if people want to find out more about the things that you're doing, where should they look you up? Where should they find you?
So you can you just search Scattershot Exotics on Facebook. I am, I hang out in my snake room, I hang out on the beach, and I fish, and I post pictures on Facebook.
You know what we got to do? We got to get you on Instagram, because hold on.
No, we kind of do, though.
Hear me out. Just hear me out for just a second, because I was one of those people. I didn't get a smartphone until like 6 years ago, so I held out really long too, and I didn't really want to get on Instagram. And then now I kind of like Instagram better than Facebook, because it's just pictures of pretty snakes all day, all these cool snakes, and you just see all the cool things that people are working with, and you don't see them posting things about how much they hate masks, or how much they hate COVID, or how much they're upset about this thing and that thing. It's just pictures of cool snakes all day, every day, and it's just so much cooler. And all you gotta do is just post pictures of cool snakes, and people will like your cool snakes. So I mean, Facebook groups are cool for that too.
Yeah.
But Instagram is awesome for that, because I just scroll through pictures of pretty snakes all day. It's great.
It's true.
I've thought about it, and I'm like,
Please, Mike. I'll be your first follower, I promise. I'm just saying, I will spread your stuff all around. I want to make sure that people follow you, because you got some amazing animals, and I love seeing pictures of them. I'm saying this selfishly, that I want you on Instagram so that I can look at pictures of your snakes more regularly. It's 100% selfish. I'm admitting it right now. I'm trying to be a better person, okay?
I'm gonna just start texting you pictures of my snakes.
Okay, I can deal with that too. And then I'm gonna make an account called Scattershot Exotics, and then I'm gonna post your pictures. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. For anyone who's upset at me right now, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love you, man.
Yeah, I'm predominantly on Facebook.
Okay.
I've got the Scattershot Exotics page,
Cool.
and you'll see me in all the different groups. So there's that. I advertise on Fauna, still. So and
Deliberately.
Yeah.
Anybody wants to reach out to me, send me a message, and that's cool.
Hell yeah.
I'm so it's not that I'm over social media, but
It's overwhelming.
these days I am so much more focused on the relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
On those on the more personal relationships where I can just chat with people. So, but you never know. You might see an Instagram page pop up. Who knows? I'm not promising you anything.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll live in hope. It's dangled in front of me and I'm just reaching. And then maybe when he makes the Instagram page, maybe I'll send him candy bacon cupcakes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That.
I gotta dangle the carrot too, I gotta.
Damn.
Oh.
And we're gonna end it on that. Thank you so much for coming on tonight, Mike. I love
thank you so
man.
much,
Thank
dude.
you so much. We're gonna have to do this
You're-
again sometime soon. I
You're
cannot
very
wait to
welcome.
see
Thanks
you
for having
again.
me. It's
Yeah,
great,
man.
great seeing you guys again.
Yes.
Yeah, you too,
Maybe
man.
we'll have to road trip down there and bring him cupcakes.
That's actually.
So you don't have to
I'm
ship the
very
snake.
much down. I'm very much down with that.
I think you should.
New
Yeah.
Jersey is a day trip. That's a day
Yeah,
trip.
that's fair.
So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that afterwards. But
All right.
maybe we'll take a day trip and I can hand deliver you candied bacon cupcakes.
I would love it.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much,
Mike.
man.
Have a great night, dude.
Have a nice night. Love you.
Good
Take
night.
care, man.